Nobody warned you about this part. They told you about the discipline, the sacrifice, the early mornings and late nights, the failures you would need to survive. But nobody sat you down and told you the truth about the loneliness, the specific, disorienting isolation that arrives not when you fail, but precisely when you begin to succeed. Nobody told you that the very act of growing would quietly, painfully separate you from people you once felt closest to, and that this separation would happen not because you did anything wrong, but simply because you kept moving while they stood still. This is the cost no one prices into the dream. Every vision board, every motivational speech, every success story glorifies the climb but stays conveniently silent about what happens at each new altitude, the way the air changes, the way fewer and fewer people are able to breathe alongside you, the way conversations that once felt easy start to feel like translation work, explaining a language your old circle never learned and, in some cases, actively resents you for speaking. Understand this now, before it catches you by surprise the way it catches almost everyone who dares to grow beyond their original environment. As you change, your relationship to your environment will change with you, whether you want it to or not. This is not punishment. It is physics. A person who commits to discipline while surrounded by people committed to comfort will inevitably create friction, because your growth becomes, whether you intend it or not, a mirror reflecting back everyone else's stagnation. And mirrors, however unintentionally, are rarely forgiven. You will notice it first in small moments. The friend who used to celebrate your ambitions now changes the subject when you bring up your goals. The family gathering where your new discipline, waking early, refusing the drink, guarding your time, is met not with admiration but with subtle mockery, as though your growth is somehow an accusation against everyone who chose differently. The group chat that used to feel like home now feels like a room you have outgrown but haven't yet found the courage to leave. None of this means these people are villains. Most of them love you. But love and threat can coexist in the same relationship, and your growth, unintentionally, has become a quiet threat to the identity they have built around staying exactly where they are. This is the first truth about the loneliness of success. It is rarely caused by external abandonment. It is caused by internal evolution outpacing the people around you, and there is no version of significant growth that does not eventually require you to walk ahead of people who are not ready, or willing, to walk with you. Napoleon Hill understood this dynamic when he wrote about the necessity of surrounding yourself with a mastermind of ambitious, growth-oriented minds, not as a luxury, but as a survival requirement, because the environment that was sufficient for who you used to be will actively work against who you are trying to become. But knowing this intellectually does not make the loneliness easier to endure. There is a particular kind of ache that comes from succeeding in a room where no one understands what the success actually cost you, the years of invisible effort, the doubts survived in silence, the sacrifices no one witnessed because they happened in the privacy of early mornings and late nights when everyone else was sleeping. You built something extraordinary, and the people closest to you see only the finished result, never the brutal, uncertain middle, and so their response, sometimes admiration, but often a strange, quiet distance, never quite matches the magnitude of what you actually lived through to get here. This is the second truth, and it is perhaps the harder one to accept. The isolation of success is not a sign that something has gone wrong. It is often a sign that something has gone exactly right. Every person who has ever built something meaningful has walked through a season where their vision was too large for their current circle to comprehend, where their discipline made others uncomfortable, where their refusal to settle was misread as arrogance rather than what it actually was, a simple, private commitment to a version of life most people around them had quietly abandoned pursuing for themselves. Abraham Lincoln experienced a version of this isolation that most people never consider. A man surrounded, throughout his presidency, by cabinet members who doubted him, colleagues who underestimated him, and a nation deeply divided against the very vision he was trying to hold together. The weight of leadership, of vision, of holding a standard almost no one around him fully understood, is a particular kind of solitude, not the solitude of having no one nearby, but the solitude of being surrounded by people and still carrying, alone, the specific burden of seeing something they cannot yet see. This is the loneliness available to anyone who dares to think, build, or become something beyond what their environment has prepared them to recognize. You have not gone the wrong direction. You have simply outpaced an environment that was never built to travel at the speed your ambition now requires. Grieve what must be grieved. Release what must be released. And then, with clear eyes and a steady heart, Begin the deliberate work of building a new circle capable of matching the person you are becoming, not because the old loneliness wasn't real, but because it was never meant to be the final destination. It was only ever the bridge, walked alone by necessity, toward a life, and eventually a community large enough to finally hold everything you were always capable of becoming.